Hello. I'd like to say that this is what I look like all the time, but obviously you've just noticed that this is what I look like all the time, flapping about with clickers and IT and all kinds of things. I'm not going to tell you too much about me right now. You'd obviously start a presentation usually with, hi, I'm Bethany, you know, all about me. But we're going to kind of do that for the next 20 minutes, so welcome. This is, however, my car, which I'm very proud of. That's not my car's filthy, but this is the make of my car, and for me, one of the things that, you know, I felt made me successful was learning to drive. I learned to drive what I consider very late in life. I was 24 when I learned to drive. I have epilepsy, so getting my licence was a big deal, and keeping it, luckily, fingers crossed. If my dream car was up there, it would be an Overfinch. If I had an Overfinch, I'd be dead by now because I drive like a maniac. I live in the countryside, so we have fantastic roads. And when I said to my mum I'm buying the Fiat 500, you know, it's quite bumpy, she said, well, go slower. So yes, a little bit into my automotive history, I suppose. I am a qualified primary school teacher. That was my bread and butter. Having come out of university, I went to Newcastle University, did a psychology degree. What do you do with that? I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with that. So I went into education. 2 years as a teaching assistant, trained to be a primary school teacher, and I did that for 2 years. I spent, and it is no exaggeration, every day feeling guilty. If I was working with or for the 30 children in my care, I felt guilty about my home life. If I was spending time in my home life, I felt guilty about the 30 children that were going to say Miss Windsor, as I was at the time. Why have you not read my story? Well, because I went out for dinner. I'm so sorry. And you were just, you know, I felt torn. Success to me at that point was fast-track headship. I wanted to be a head in 10 years. Why? Because you could do it in 10 years, and I'm a successful person and I should do it in 10 years. It seems silly now, because did I want to be a head? Probably not. I enjoyed working with the children, but you think that you're on this hamster wheel and, you know, so forward you must go. It got to the point where I couldn't keep calm and carry on anymore. I'm not ashamed to say that teaching was a job that is just too hard for me. I am a perfectionist. When you're asked in job interviews, what's your weakness? And people say, oh, I'm a perfectionist. Actually, it's not a good thing. Yes, it means that your presentations look quite nice at work and, you know, your washing's always done on time. But I have a presentation going on without me at work this afternoon. They've had to email it to me because I want to be the last person that sees it in case anyone's messed around with it. That's not a good trait if you're a manager. I'm not a manager because I don't think I make a good manager at the stage that I'm at in my career. So it's about kind of knowing yourself, and I knew at this point I needed to get out. The company I work for now, we'll talk a little bit about them in a moment, uses a really good analogy. We're supply chain software. Are you a good supplier or are you a good business? You can be a good supplier at all costs to whoever it is that you might be supplying. Cost of money, cost of time, cost of happiness. Does that make you a good business? No, it doesn't. And that's the situation that I was in teaching. I was Ofsted outstanding. My kids, by and large, thought I was a lovely person, which is what you want if you're looking for that level of accolade. Was I going home every night and crying or feeling very stressed out or being angry for no good reason and temperamental? Yes. So I had to move on. I wanted to be happy. When Andy Murray lost to Novak Djokovic in the final of the Australian Open, he said, success is being happy. I was not happy, and I wanted to be happy. Great, let's find a job that does that. Hit a brick wall. What does that job look like? I've been in education all my life. I went to the toilet at 3:10, even when I started an office job, because, you know, that's the time that you've got to go. And I felt so strange, you know, it hit 12 o'clock, I'm hungry for lunch. It was ingrained in my very person, education. instead of thinking, which of course I would encourage everyone to do, where do I want to go? What path should I be on? What kind of company do I want to work for? Remember, in some industries there is a buyer's market, as it were, and you can choose who you want to work for. I didn't do any of those things. I went onto Universal Job Match, what at the time was the Job Centre website, and went, anything that will pay my mortgage. We had a mortgage to pay. What would I be good at was kind of as close to drilling down into that as I'd gotten. I wish that I'd done it slightly differently, not because I'm not happy where I am, but just because I don't feel like I approached it in quite the right way. But luckily, I've done all right with my choice. The barriers that I faced when I was looking for a new job weren't transferable skills. Trust me, working where I work, being a primary school teacher, comes in very handy. A lot of egos, a lot of people who need nappy changing and things like that. But for me, the barriers were self-confidence. Transferable skills, I think, it's not a phrase that I particularly enjoy. I think, for argument's sake, let's say 20 years ago, going into a secretarial role, which is what I started off in, you would have been asked, what's your typing speed? Now everybody assumes that you can type. I think transferable skills are the same. Everybody assumes that you now have them. You know, we know what they are. We're getting much better now at saying what they are. And, you know, my interview kind of went through that, time management, you know, all of the behavioural aspects that come with primary teaching. But if you'd have said to me at that point, well, what are you good at? Well, I don't know. I'm good at teaching, but I don't enjoy teaching. And it all became very difficult to kind of think about where I wanted to go. So I decided that I was just going to be myself. Can't remember who said it, but common phrase, be yourself, everybody else is taken. I decided that going into my interview, I was just going to be me. To give you an example of that, my boss, only a couple of years older than me, said, what do you think differentiates you from the other people that we're going to be interviewing? In one word. Great. Hadn't prepared for this. I said, hardworking. He said, okay. 9 out of 10 people were probably going to say hardworking. Would you like to choose again? I said, no, I'd like you to employ one of them. And he just kind of went, pardon? I said, well, I could tell you that I bake a really good ginger biscuit. I could tell you that I'm overly fond of JLS, which I was at the time. I'm still a little bit now. But it's not going to get me the job. What you want to know is that my backside will be where it needs to be, doing the job that you need me to do, and I call that hardworking. When I phoned my husband from the car park and he said, how did it go? I said, I was myself. He went, oh really? Do you think you've got it? But I had to try. And that was kind of my first step into being successful, being happy, and that alignment was, luckily, achieving a new job. The company that I work for provides supply chain software, not exclusively to automotive, but we have our heritage in automotive. With the company, my job title is now PA to the board / business development. It's like, fine, and anything else that you want to add on there. But I started off as an office junior. I've had 3 promotions, I've had 3 pay rises, which, you know, we can't pretend that we don't go to work for the money. And I am very happy there. My first promotion was PA to the MD, my second PA to the board. That's what I thought being a PA would be like. For anyone who's seen Iron Man, I'm like, yes, I've got this. I've seen the films, I've got the clothes, yes, I'm there. This is what being a PA is actually like. It is nothing like they make it out to be in the films. I've been asked with less than an hour's notice to procure a cherry red bow tie. Not tomato red, not claret, cherry red. I live in Peterborough. There's nothing in Peterborough. We have one John Lewis, that's it. So it's not an easy job. Equally, I've been working at strategic level with the board to put together the company vision. This is my first office job. This is my first, what I would class as real job. you know, outside of education. That's a big ask, so it has been a steep learning curve, but I was a bit bored when I first started. I kind of had 5 days worth of work or 3 days worth of work and 5 days to do them in. So what I wanted to be doing, the strategic stuff, was actually, I realise now in hindsight, a little bit beyond me. And the kind of day-to-day office stuff was just a little bit of a drudge. And I didn't really know where I fitted in the company. More to the point, neither did anybody else. We had one chap start with us not a million years ago, who said to me, Bethany, I don't understand you. 1 minute you're working in HR and you're kind of doing the training and the company vision and the positioning piece for induction. The next minute you're ordering toilet roll. I don't get it. And I kind of thought, am I being successful? Does he see me as a success in this company? Yes, potentially when I'm delivering induction or something like that, you know, holding a relatively high position. Probably not when I'm ordering toilet roll. It's a valuable job, it needs doing, I'm not going to lie. But where do I see myself? And this, you know, kind of harks back to what we've just discussed. What route did I want to be on? Was I positioning myself appropriately? I wanted to stand out. I did put some thought into it, and I stood out a fair amount anyway, because at the time we were about 30 people and only 3 of us were women and only 1 of us was under 50. So I was quite conspicuous in any case, but was I conspicuous for the right reasons? Possibly not. So I set about building what I consider to be a personal brand. It sounds all very, I'm using inverted commas, personal brand, because actually I want to talk you through what that meant to me and how I feel that it's contributed to being able to stand here and talk to you lovely people today. You have to understand your weaknesses. You absolutely have to understand your weaknesses. I have 2 learning difficulties. Dyscalculia, which is maths dyslexia, dyspraxia, which is chronic clumsiness, for want of a better explanation. I could work every single day on my mathematical ability, and Stephen Hawking, I ain't. It is never going to happen for me because there's a blocker. There are things that I'm great at, if I do say so myself. I'm quite good at literacy. I could spend every day on maths and flog a dead horse, but I personally don't think that I would be as successful doing that as I would focusing on my strengths. The only way to know your strengths, be them tangible, like maths versus literacy, or more soft skills, is to actually spend the time thinking about it. We did a great exercise, my boss and I and the senior management team, called Horns and Halos. You write down everything that you think is good about you, they write down everything that they think is good about you, and vice versa. And then again, for the horns, the things that are not so good. I think that I'm methodical, they think I'm pedantic. 2 very different ends of the scale. How can you make that working relationship better for people to see you as being good at what you do, ultimately leading to your success? Are you focusing on your strengths? Have you looked at this and kind of gone, yeah, this is the company that I work for, you know, and I'm that fish and I think I'm stupid because I can't climb that tree? Or have you thought, well, yeah, but I'll race you at swimming? You know, that's the kind of company that I work in, luckily, doesn't hold this as their values, and I was encouraged to kind of know myself and understand myself, which I found really useful. You have to kind of think of yourself as a brand. So of course you're part of the company that you work for, or the company that you've set up if you're self-employed, or you know, whatever you're part of a university, whatever it is that you're part of it, it's part of you, but ultimately you're still your own person. I went to a networking event once. I run a networking group for PAs myself, as well as obviously working for Data Interchange, the software provider. Hi, you know, I'm whoever he said he was. Who are you? I said, I'm Bethany. And who have you come here to represent? I was like, Bethany? Sorry, did I have to bring something, sell something, do something? so what do you do? Well, I work for a software company, run a PA network, involved in various things in Peterborough, where I live. Yes, but which one have you come as tonight? I was like, tonight, Matthew, I'm not there. I want to be me. I want to be known for who I am and what I do. And I found that a little bit shocking, because I think people were there to kind of sell, and that's fine, that's what it was there for. But it really led me to think, how do I want people to see me? What kind of a brand am I? Am I consistent, which is what I think when I see the Coke logo, it's going to be the same in every country. Am I don't know, cheap and unreliable? Insert brand of your choice there. What kind of things do I want to stand for? And I would encourage you to do the same. What do you stand for? Personally, professionally, the two have to dovetail. I decided that where I stood was as a person that isn't too bad at doing this kind of thing, and isn't too bad at engaging with others, which when you work in a software company, there's an awful lot of chaps who are not good at doing this kind of thing. They're brilliant at coding, and I've never coded a thing. So what I could add value to the business was bringing the outside in, coming to things like this, meeting with people, learning new things, putting myself out there, bringing all of that back into the business and saying, this is where I add value. Externally, I'm involved in a variety of different things. I'm on the steering group for Women in Logistics, which is an organisation that promotes women working in the logistics sector, believe it or not. We're about 3,500 members, most of which are in the UK, around 600 of whom are men, we're pleased to say. And Women in Logistics stands for engaging, inspiring and connecting women. It's not about saying, you must have a woman for the job. It's about saying there is a right person for this job, and if it is a woman, please consider them. We are not bra-burning lobbyists of any description. That's not what we stand for. That I felt aligned very closely with my personal brand because they promote career progression. So I was very happy to be involved with them. I'm also on the regional committee for the CILT. I'm the chair of the Peterborough and Cambridge branch of CILT, which when your name is Bethany Fovargue and you're Bethany Fovargue, chair of the Peterborough and Cambridge branch of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport. My business card is like this, it's insane. But it's been invaluable for me to meet people at the events that I've been lucky enough to organise, go back to the business and say, this is who I've met, this is what they're doing, this is what we could be doing, these are the changes in the arena. We have a lot of people, we're a growing company doing kind of a job and a half. There's very little time to come to things like this. And that's where I saw that I could add value, bringing the outside in. You've got to kind of get involved though, and I'm obviously preaching to the converted because you're here today, which is fabulous. But even for people who are slightly more desk-bound, there are ways of getting involved. I adore social media. I'm on Twitter. I have 2 accounts for Twitter, one running my PA side of things, one running my logistics side of things. And that, I feel, allows me to bring the outside in, to reach out and say, this is what's going on. I forward tweets to my colleagues and things like that. For me, that's them being able to say, oh, look, Bethany's found this, Bethany's suggested this. That's what I want. I want them to think that I'm good at my job. To me, that's one of the things that I seek, is that success approval of people saying, okay, yeah, we'll keep paying it. Which leads me quite nicely on to why you would want to do any of these things. Why would you want to spend your free time going to a CILT event? Why would you want to spend, company money going to a Women in Logistics event? Why would you want to spend a lovely hot afternoon here with us? It's about the value that that brings to your company, of course, but also to your personal brand. What can you go back and say is useful? As I said, I've had 3 promotions in 4 years. I will have been doing my job 4 years in a couple of weeks' time. I don't think that's too shabby. It's something that I'm very proud of, and I think, in fact, I know I wouldn't have got those if I hadn't have lifted my head above the parapet and said, has anybody seen this? Might you like to go to this? What about this? I've met this person. Because There's people that are good at selling in our business, there's people that are good at coding in our business, there's people that are much better with numbers in our business than I'll ever be. So I had to find my USP. The lady that isn't me is Ruth Waring, who's the founder of Women in Logistics and our current chair. She has acted as both a friend and as a mentor to me, having buy-in to be able to do a lot of the things that I've talked about is of paramount importance. I hope that there's nobody sitting there today kind of thinking, oh yeah, I see where you're coming from, Bethany, but I can't get the time to go to these things. Firstly, if you haven't got work time, use personal time. Nobody got anything for nothing, and a lot of what I do I have to do in my own time. Secondly, consider things that don't involve leaving the business, like Twitter and things like that, or whatever your social media of choice. But try and get your internal buy-in. Try and say to your bosses, to your colleagues, to your mentors, to your friends at work, whoever it might be, what do you think my USP is? Where do you think I could add value? Where could I reach out and try and start making a name for myself almost? Not everybody is as lucky as I am, and I do appreciate that. And when I go to places and say, well, that's all very well and good, Bethany, but I'm not allowed to do these things, try and make the case, and I would be more than happy to support anybody doing that, because I've had to do that myself. When I first launched the Peterborough PA network, we're about 250 PAs, give or take, about 30 at any one meeting. My boss heard, Bethany wants work time to have a cup of tea with her friends. Understandably, I had to say, no, actually, what I'm going to do is bring PAs from procurement together, PAs from, we have a few in supply chain and logistics actually, the relevant ones. I didn't focus on the others because they're not relevant to the business. Focus on the ones that might be relevant, made the introduction. My boss has since come and spoke to the group about a strong working relationship with your PA. It's all about how you sell it, and I've had to work hard at that, but I have found it an invaluable lesson. So a couple of concluding thoughts. Once you've worked out your strengths and weaknesses, once you've got your internal buy-in, hopefully, once you've decided how much of your personal time you're willing to dedicate to your journey of career success, you have to start walking the talk. You've got to start going to these things, putting yourself out there, sticking your head above the parapet in your appraisals and saying, look where I've gone, look what I've done, look who I've seen. You've got to be consistent. It's no good doing this for 2 months and then going, oh, I've had enough now, I've done it, I've seen this, I've spoken to that person. You've got to keep on that. It's a different hamster wheel and a much more enjoyable one, but it is still something that you have to keep doing to make sure that you're abreast of what's going on in your industry. Try to stand out, which I think this particular chap's doing a very good job of doing, because standing out makes yourself a valuable asset. A Douglas Adams quote, I may not have gone where I intended to go, but I think I've ended up where I needed to be. 4 years ago, just over, because I quit my teaching job long before you're actually allowed to leave because of the terms. If you'd have said, would I be working in supply chain and logistics? Would I be standing in front of all you people here today? Would I be happy doing it? I didn't know, because I hadn't taken the time to look and see where did I want to go, what trajectory was I on. So it certainly wasn't where I intended to go. I thought I was going to be on my way to being a head teacher by now. But I hope that I've ended up where I've needed to be, and I hope that my story might have inspired some of you, even in a small way, to feel that you can support your businesses in the same way that I hope to have supported mine. Thank you. Oh, Mary, has anyone got any questions? Sorry, I'm like, sit down. Did anybody have any questions?
Bethany,
I'm not too keen to sit down.
What would be the one piece of advice that you would give to someone seeking success?
The one piece of advice that I would give somebody for seeking success, you've got to get over yourself. You've got to get over yourself. Do I ever play charades at Christmas? do I insert expletive here? Because I'm going to be embarrassed, I'm going to be shown up. You can't do that. You've got to fail. And as a perfectionist, I can't bear the thought of that. And it has held me back because I've said, I'm not going to do that because I'm not sure whether I can. You've got to say, I'm not sure whether I can, I'll give it a go and I'll tell you next week, next month, tomorrow, how it's gone. So you've got to kind of grab the bull by the horns, I guess, to mix my metaphors.
Or do you find it quite easy to recognise the fact that you are different in how you approach it? So how do you how are you able to see almost your own achievements and understand how they contribute to your success?
When it comes to seeing my own achievements, I think, I'm going to go back over here because I've got an echo, sorry. When it comes to seeing my own achievements, it depends again and harks back to what we were talking about earlier about what do you see as successful. For me, it started off in the job that I'm doing as having formal recognition. I entered an awful lot of awards because I wanted somebody to say, you're doing a good job. So as my LinkedIn profile, to be fair, I came runner-up in an award, which isn't the best for your self-confidence, but it was still nice to be recognised. As my LinkedIn kind of said, you know, I'd done this, I'd done this, I'd done this, I thought, okay, you know, actually this is starting to mean something. I've since kind of changed the way that I think about it because that's great, but it's not sustainable. And it's nice to have that recognition, but it doesn't actually mean that you're happy on a day-to-day basis. So I've tried to, I guess, take stock, and if something goes well, think what went well and how can I use it again next time. And if something went badly, instead of catastrophizing and going, oh my God, I'm a failure, everything's gone dreadfully, thinking, well, what specifically didn't go well? And it is a mindset, and I'm lucky it's one that they teach you in teaching, which is called to be a reflective practitioner. Think about each day of what you've done, what went well, what didn't go well. But it's only kind of through doing that, when you realise that more days have gone well than have gone badly, that you start to think, I'm all right at this. And for me, that success is feeling that I'm all right at something, and that happiness to be able to share that with my family, share that with my friends, and ultimately share that with the people that I work with as well.